Okay, so this is the second part of the class 5 exercise with it. I would like to talk to you about as far as this class exercise. It's a huge project to actually cram into one exercise with it. So I broke it up into two halves with it. The first half is the setup and how you go about doing this with it. And part of learning is that you need to pick up the pattern and how things are doing here with it. So patterns is what's really good for you to know what to do the next step with it. So let me give you, so that was the big picture on the first part, was the big grand picture with it. This part, I want to tell you what you need to do for class exercise number 5. All right. So what you're looking at is the basic code for this, and don't worry about the code right now. You're going to do all of this. Don't bother with this thing. But the first thing I need for you to do is if you could go to Terminal and click on New Terminal with it, and you got to know these commands after a while with it. You need to be able to come in and run your development server and how to turn it off and toggle back and forth between these things with it and troubleshoot some of the stuff with it. So make sure you have Terminal down here after when we do this, before we get started with this. Let me show you what this, by the end of class exercise number 5, this is what you're supposed to have. So if you do Terminal, it opens up the bottom, which is equivalent to your DOS command. And I'm going to, let me drag this up a little bit. I'm sorry I can't get the font any bigger in here for this with it. But this is the best I could do once you have a prompt on where there should be a prompt on the path to your directory to where you're at with it right now. So if you remember the command called npm space start, like I typed here with it. I apologize again for the small fonts. I can't get any larger with this thing unless somebody tells me how to do this thing. Let me see if I can actually change this. No. Yeah, this is the best I can do right now with it. So I'm going to start the development server with it. So it takes a few seconds with it. It's going to open up the browser. It's going to start the development server. On the right hand side is the is the browser right here, and it's going to load. And this is by the end of this class exercise number 5. You should have something looking like this. I did all the CSS for you, so you should have just basically a logo, and it becomes responsive once you do all of this with it. All right, you see how this changed into a hamburger. I call it a hamburger. 3 lines, 4 lines, double meat, single meat, whatever you want to call this. And you click on it, it expands out to the content for this thing with it. Again, the key purpose is to get it to. Of course, it's not working properly because I'll explain to you why in a second. With it, it's not the full blown. If you refresh this, it goes back to its original with it. You're going to see why there's two menu there in a second with it. But this is what the end product would look like with it. And then for class exercise 6, 7, 7, or the next one is the 6 and the 7. We should wrap up with some of this activity that you do right now, right here with it as well. Okay, so that's the big scope of how the end of this project should look like with it. All right, that's what I want you to do. So if you could, I am going to take it. The next part is the part 3. I'm going to take everything from scratch, well, where you start from basically with it, and download this shell that I gave you. And you're going to actually, I put in all the graphics and everything for you, okay? So this is what, I just want to show you this by the end of this thing, what it should look like right now. All right, stay tuned. Hey, before we move and get started with the project with it, I want us to you to know how to turn on and off the development server. All right. So it's important that for you to know to launch the development server, you would actually do an npm start. All right, and you hit enter. And you need, once that launches it with it, just let it run for a few seconds here. And it looks like this. Hopefully you don't have any syntax errors or any issues right now with it. Just give it a second here. You can see in my terminal that you have npm start. That's how you launch it. and it says starting development server ... and it looks like this, right? So it's reloading the development server with what we are about to do. Give it a second here. And it looks like this. All right. To exit or to end the development server that you know while you're coding or anytime you want to install other stuff that's also built into it as well, do Control C. It's going to prompt you. Oh, by the way, you have to click inside of the terminal. Click inside of the terminal. Control C. With it, and that will prompt you if you ask you to terminate it. Answer yes, hit enter, and it takes you back to the prompt with it. So I want to add this into your part of this last end of this, so you know how to launch it, how to stop the server at the same time when you're needing to install the stuff that's running in the. There are times that we need to have to do this. Most of the time I have it running in the background with it, and you save your file, it updates it with it. But there are times that you need to stop it because you're loading in. It's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg type of deal with it, and you're trying to write a code, and at the same time you're trying to import. So it's going to give you some errors. So that's what you want when you turn it off with it. So again, it's one of those things that you have to be able to know when to launch it and know when to launch it. You do npm space start, and to end it, Control C. Make sure you're inside the terminal. Click inside of the terminal. Control C, and that would actually prompt you and you answer yes to it. Okay? This concludes the second part.